That is not only not true, that is false.
I'm only trying to get to the question of what AIPAC is, and I don't think you're being straightforward about it. AIPAC is lobbying on behalf of the interests of a foreign country, and they're not registered. And you're saying, no, that's not true. You're saying that they don't coordinate with the Israeli government.
Of course, I coordinate. Do they talk with them? I don't know what they do. I can tell you.
But why don't you care? Isn't it meaningful if a foreign government...
Hey, I talk with Israel all the time. I talk with foreign countries all the time.
But the law is, and a lot of people have been prosecuted under this law, that if you are lobbying on behalf of foreign government, you must register. That's it. It's really simple. And I don't know why, if I'm working for Malaysia or Qatar or Belgium, and I'm working on behalf of its government's interests through a group of Americans who are representing the friendship between those two nations, I have to register under the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And if I don't, I can go to jail. And people have gone to jail, including people I know. So I don't understand why we don't just be honest and say they're lobbying on behalf of a foreign government, they're coordinating with the government. You know that that's true.
That is not only not true, that is false.
That was good. That was a good one. That one was good. You got to use that one. No, that's a solid line right there.
So what they'll do is, so in my last election, AIPAC endorsed me. And they'll host a fundraiser. They'll host a fundraiser in Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or New York or LA. And they'll do a fundraiser and they'll get someone who will host it. And it's usually a business owner, lawyer, doctor, someone who hosts it. And you'll get typically at an AIPAC fundraiser 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 people who live in that city, who care about a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. And if they have, 50 people, each of them writes a $1,000 check, and you raise $50,000.
Yeah, I've been to an AIPAC fundraiser. I know what it looks like.
But that is not, and by the way, there's no representative of the Israeli government there. You have, when you're in Dallas, you're
arguing that because there's no foreign minister from Israel present at these fundraising lobbies, that means that AIPAC isn't fucking associated with Israel? What the fuck kind of argument is that? Jesus Christ.
Do you think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics?
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel, when we're talking...
Jesus Christ. Yeah, the fucking audacity, man. No, I do think it's weird, the obsession with Israel. I do think it's weird that we've given them, like, billions and billions in funding, and how they have healthcare and we don't, and, like, we pay for their weapons, and you politicians literally can't you can't criticize Israel. You literally can't do it. That is a little weird, I think.
Talk about foreign countries.
It's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now.
Senator, you're asking the questions, Tucker.
Tucker is, of course, an anti-Semite, but the questions he's asking here are not anti-Semitic.
You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are.
How would you deny that you said that? Of course that's what you just did, Ted Cruz. Why would you, you absolutely did that.
And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it, or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking you.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran or the Ayatollah.
If I can finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions
I'll
in a
answer any
straightforward,
question
rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
So, shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me
you just called me a sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about...
This is why people hate Thanksgiving. Yeah, least belligerent American Thanksgiving dinner in 2025.
How my government is
You want to
run.
count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews. I have... This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two. They have nothing to do with each other. I'm talking about the influence of
Israel and Jews have nothing to do with each other?
No. All Jews, or an attack on all Jews, which I am not, nor would I ever be undertaking now. I'm not attacking anybody.
By the way, that's who Iran wants to kill, is all the Jews and all the Americans.
And I'm totally opposed to that, okay? But now, because
except you don't want to do anything about it.
Decisions need to be made.
We can talk about those decisions.
And I plan to.
Good.
But I just want to get a sense of whether you think, having described yourself as an America First person whose only criterion for judgment on foreign policy is America's national interest, to what extent you're influenced by a foreign government, which gives you a lot of money through its lobby, and you're claiming this has nothing to do with the foreign government. They're not coordinating. Yes, they're spying on us, but it doesn't bother you. And I'm sort of wondering, like, what is this? This is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had.
I'll tell you what, and I'll answer any question you like. But
I want Tucker to interview every Zionist now. Holy shit! Like, literally everyone knows this. All the politicians, all these big media pundits, they all know how the game is played. They all understand why they can't, defy the dogma on this. If we had real journalists, they would.
Are you going to call me an anti-Semite again or no?
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little.
You're the one who went to motive. I'm asking honest questions.
I'm
just asking questions. Yes, that's it. That is what I'm doing.
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little bit.
Okay. Picture the house you're dreaming.
Oh, I will not picture the house of my dreams.
Text, plenty of data. You company.
Murphy movie called The Distinguished Gentleman.
No.
It's a great movie. It's actually a fun comedy.
Wait, does he just straight up not answer? Did Ted Cruz really just spend 5 minutes waffling and accusing Tucker Carlson of anti-Semitism to avoid answering? Did he just straight up try to move past this?
About politics, and Eddie Murphy in the movie is a con man who gets elected to Congress, and he's literally a con man who the congressman dies, he has the same name, and so he runs and they get elected. And you often get leftists in the media who say, for example, if you support the Second Amendment,
called an anti-Semite for asking questions, and it's also the only government that no one will ever criticize. And I find
criticize Israel every minute of every day. Like the only government.
Politicians don't. Politicians do not. No, sir, they do not. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Not even people like Ilhan Omar and AOC are limited in their criticisms. They say stuff like, well, there's a genocide going on, which there is. But they know that there's a line, and the broader dynamic is something they can't touch on.
That people will not criticize. Rashida Tlaib just tweeted out calling Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal.
Rashida Tlaib? No,
you said no one will criticize.
No, I'm talking about Republicans that...
Also, that's a criticism of Netanyahu, not of Israel.
I would vote for, including you. And I'm saying, whatever. I don't even like talking about Israel. What I care about, I never do, because it's not worth being called anti-Semite.
The State Department has explicitly stated that they will revoke green cards and student visas of people who criticize Israel. Not that criticize America. To my knowledge, criticizing America has not led to anyone getting deported, has not led to anyone getting their visa revoked, whereas the State Department explicitly stated criticism of Israel could lead to those things happening.
It's from AIPAC recipients. But now we are on the verge of joining a war, and I just want to be clear about why we're doing this.
All right, so, and let's get into Iran momentarily, but You suggested it was.
What about people that say anti-Trump shit in social media? Yeah, there are like members of ICE or border Customs and Border Patrol that'll like exercise discretion on that. But the State Department has explicitly, with Mahmoud Khalil, explicitly stated that criticism of Israel could lead to the revocation of a green card because you're criticizing America's like foreign political interests. It goes beyond like just criticizing Trump or whatever. They specifically describe that. Do you think Zionism is what's radicalizing people into anti-Semitism? No, there have been anti-Semites for a long time. But I gotta say, this shit is not helping.
It was a strange thing that I said a minute ago that when I came into the Senate, I resolved that I was going to be the leading defender of Israel. And what you didn't ask is why. So let me tell you why.
No, you said I was obsessed with Israel, and you had just told me that like your driving motive to get to the Senate was to defend Israel. I'm like, I don't think I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel.
Okay,
I don't even think about Israel.
Tucker, words matter. And you know that. I said I resolved to be the leading defender of Israel, and you said your driving motive, the reason you're in the Senate.
You want to be the leading defender of Israel. I would think if I ran for Senate, I'd be like, there are people dying of drug ODs on the street.
My driving motive is to fight for Texas and America, and to fight for jobs, and to fight for the Constitution. And you played a very, very careful word game of a lie to you.
You're the one who said it, not me.
So you still haven't asked why, but I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
And the reason is twofold. Number one, as a Christian, growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
Good Lord.
And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the...
It's in Genesis, but... So you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it, and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
He is very good at what he does. Obviously, Ted Cruz is not actually meaningfully religious. His justifications here are insincere, right? He's just pivoting to Christianity as a defense in an attempt to put up another wall. In reality, of course, the answer is and always will be because he's been bought. But he can't say that, so...
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on.
Hold
on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what? Hold on. Define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
the
God's referring to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a democratic country that elects.
Oh, dude, the fucking... The fact that Ted Cruz has to pull from his point here to like further glaze Netanyahu.
He's the prime minister,
right?
What?
But just like, you know, America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle
is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is
you believe Israel. That's what God was talking about in Genesis.
I do.
Genuinely surprised at how much nuance Tucker's poking at right now. Well, he was probably ready for all these talking points, but also the stuff that Ted Cruz is saying here is pretty easy to dissect, you know? Like, the Zionist superstructure in American politics relies on no one directly questioning it, which is why they had to spend so much time and money, like, buying everyone out, right? Like, it's like how when dictators take power, they put so much effort into making sure nobody directly criticizes them because their shit falls apart, like, immediately. It's essentially like that, you know? They have to work very hard to keep the bubble intact.